Scotch the Scare-Go, written by Neil Dickinson and illustrated by David Clark. In a field on a farm, near a wood in the country, stood a sad, lonely scarecrow. Like most scarecrows, he wore a funny hat and patched up clothes, but with a difference. Instead of wearing trousers, he wore a tartan kilt. And that's why the farmer called him Scotch. Having no trousers didn't really matter to Scotch. After all, he had no legs, but it did get cold when the wind blew. The problem with being a scarecrow is that you can't move, which is why having no legs is still not a problem. You get put where the farmer wants to put you, and your only hope is to be facing the sun. Another problem is that if you're good at your job, and Scotch certainly was, then there aren't even any birds to talk to because they've all been scared away. One sunny morning, Scotch was watching the rabbits who liked to play in the shade under his kilt, when out of the corner of his eye he saw a different rabbit, one that he'd never seen before. It had golden fur, and although its eyes were a deep, darkest black, they had a friendly glint. The rabbit slowly lolloped up to Scotch, and to his amazement began to talk. "Hello, Scotch," said the rabbit. "I'm Hop, chief messenger for Lord Tremble, the master scarecrow. You have been such a good scarecrow doing your job in rain, snow, fog or sunshine that you've been chosen to be a scare-go." A scare-go? What's that?" asked Scotch. A scare-go is a scarecrow who, instead of chasing crows and pests away, chases scares away. When a little boy or girl somewhere in the world is feeling very scared, we can send a scare-go to help. "But how?" asked Scotch. "I don't have any legs." "You'll see," said the rabbit, who quickly hopped away into the distance. That night, when the moon and stars were shining brightly in a clear sky, Scotch was enjoying a nice sleep when he heard a little girl's voice. He looked around, but there was nobody there. He thought he must have been dreaming. But then he heard it again, and this time he heard what she said. "I'm scared." All of a sudden he felt something he had never experienced in his life before. The feeling of having 2 feet on the ground. He had legs. Before he could even think of what was happening to him, he set off running. This was running as fast as it was possible to imagine. Nothing seemed to get in his way. Gates, walls, fences, even whole buildings seemed to disappear in front of him. In no time at all, he found himself in the back garden of a house, exactly where he had no idea. And then he saw her, the little girl whose scared, tiny voice he had heard back in the field. She was sitting on the back step of her kitchen door in her pyjamas, cuddling a baby rabbit. Scotch walked up to her slowly, and she looked at him without any fear in her eyes. "Hello, little girl," he said. "What are you doing out here in the middle of the night?" "I thought I heard a fox in the garden, and I was scared for Cola, my pet rabbit. So I came down to look after her, and the door closed behind me. Now I can't get back in, and I'm scared to knock, because I don't want to wake Mummy and Daddy. They will be cross with me." "That's okay," said Scotch. "I can't open the door for you, but I can show you how not to be scared." "How?" said the little girl. "Well, I know you love Cola very much," said Scotch, "but your Mummy and Daddy love you 1,000,000 times more. So don't be afraid to knock. They will cuddle you just like you cuddled Cola, I promise." With that, Scotch tore off a tiny piece of his tartan kilt and gave it to her. "This will make the scare go away," he said. "Now, knock loudly and wait for the cuddles." She smiled at Scotch, and holding the tiny piece of tartan in her hand, she knocked on the door. And soon she was in the arms of her daddy. When she turned round to say thank you, there was nobody there. And where was Scotch? He was already back in the field, snoring away and dreaming happy dreams of bunny rabbits and cuddles. The end.